welcome. My name's Rachel and I'm on the board of Borderlines Film Festival, along with Matthew, and we're here to have a conversation, have a chat with the filmmakers, directors, creatives on these beautiful films that we've just seen, a selection. It would be really lovely just to get an introduction from everybody who's actually on the panel. I think that would be really, really nice. So I wonder whether, Matthew, do you want to start and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Matthew Evans. I'm a director and I'm part of the open screen panel, but I'm not on the Borderlines.
That's true, I apologise. You're here so often, I think you are. No. And you're wearing the t-shirt, so
yeah,
you know.
Absolutely. I've got the Borderlines t-shirt. Actually, it's Joe's Borderlines t-shirt. Yeah.
Well, let's not get into that. And Rick, introduce yourself. You used to be on the Borderlines.
Yes, hello, I'm Rick Goldsmith. I'm from Capture Media and I've been on the Borderlines panel for a good few years, but I've just stepped back from it, but I'm still very much involved with open screen. I think it's very exciting. It's lovely seeing the new work coming through, especially locally. So that's why I'm here.
Great stuff, and thank goodness you are. Thank you very much, Rick. Estelle, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yes. Hi, Rachel, and everybody. I'm Estelle van Wormelo. I'm the artistic director of the site-specific theatre company called Feral Productions, and we have been experimenting with digital theatre in the last year for obvious reasons.
Brilliant, thank you. Paula, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Paula Braxton and I am the writer-director of The River. I'm a novelist and I'm looking to make my first feature film. So this was a little way into it for me and something to do during lockdown, really. Brilliant,
brilliant. And Sarah Jane, could you introduce yourself for me?
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Sarah Jane Arbery and I'm a writer. I'm the resident writer for Feral Productions and I wrote the script for The Tale of White Cottage.
Fantastic, how lovely. Right, what I'd like you to do, what we're going to ask you to do actually, all three of you, is just to talk a little bit about the film that you've brought to open screen for us this afternoon and tell us a little bit about its background, where it's come from, and then, you know, from idea to fruition, really, just a little summary of where the film came from and why you actually have made a film. It'd be really, really lovely just to kind of get that background from all of you. Estelle, should we come back to you?
Sure thing. So it was quite a sort of circuitous journey to the Tale of White Cottage. We're a site responsive theatre company, and when we went into lockdown, it felt really important to offer a conduit for the community to express creatively express how they were experiencing the situation with the pandemic, and just to offer an outlet. So we buddied up with the Courtyard to invite the community to creatively respond in whatever form they wanted to. And the submissions were so inspiring that we thought there was future life for a lot of them. And one of the things that we do is we work closely with the archives to explore the history of places that we are responding to creatively. And so we selected, from the submissions, we selected places that were illustrated in the community pieces that had some history about them. And from that, we chose 3 pieces, in fact, for further development, which was funded by the Arts Council. And then we brought in a professional crew to work with the community, and then we rewrote and used it as stimulus material, really, to create 3 short pieces in the end in a variety of places, one in Hereford City, one in Ledbury, and one in the Golden Valley. And White Cottage is a result of that. So it is based in fact, historical fact. These were real people. Obviously, there's quite a lot of artistic interpretation as to kind of understanding the riddles, like the letters on the mantelpiece. We definitely played a bit of detective, but also with some healthy guesswork and quite a big helping of imagination. We created what we've ended up with there.
Brilliant. I'd love to, I want to bring Sarah Jane into this in a second, but I'm really interested to know in a little bit, I want to talk to Paula and hear about her process, but I would love you to talk about the difference between theatre and film and whether the lockdown pushed you towards film more and with, you know, more urgency simply because of the lockdown situation. I'm really curious about whether that was something you felt comfortable doing or happy doing, or whether you felt elbowed into it. So I'd love you to talk about that in a minute. But Paula, would you tell us a little bit about your process towards the river and you know, and actually for both of you, the costume dramas. I mean, extraordinary. Tell us about the river.
The river was, well, it was a project born out of frustration, really. I've written 15 novels. That's my full-time job is writing historical fantasies. And I want to make a film. And I've been wittering on at my publishers for years that I wanted to make a film. And we've had a few nibbles and got nowhere. And I just got to the point where I thought, you know what? I'll just make my own. I'll just go out, I'll just write a shorter thing and film it. So I had a phone. And I had a friend whose daughter was doing drama, who I knew was very good. I'd been to see one of her plays, and I had some time. And I thought, right, well, I'm gonna write something that we can film in Hereford on a phone on a budget of under £1,000 and one separate directional microphone and one light and my kitchen. I don't think this is one of the settings, and my sitting room and the river. And that was it. And so that's really where it came from, and just the fun of doing the directing, the filming, the editing, the script writing, everything myself. All the cast members other than the two lead characters and the other one incidental character are family members, including me. We all had to get dragged in to do stuff. So it was a family production. And just to see if we could do it. And my leading man got whisked off for a month's holiday in the middle of it, and we had to and all sorts of, I now know why people never film outside with dialogue, because we had helicopters, we had the Rotherwas industrial estate, we had tractors, we had dogs, but we had things that weren't historical. That was the worst of it. It was like we could have noises. Dogs actually I embraced in the end.
Yeah.
But, you know, we were literally filming when the tractor got to a certain point. We filmed and then it came back and we stopped. So I learned a lot. But it was really good fun, and that's where it came.
Enjoy it. You enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it was great fun.
You're hooked now.
Yeah, that is the
no way out.
You're hooked. We've got you. Matthew, Rick, do you have any questions for any of our filmmakers, writers?
I was really interested, Estelle, about the idea of a professional guru coming and working with a local group who had intentions, and how that worked out. I mean, Paula's description about how you made your film, suddenly bringing in, parachuting in a crew, can really change a local community and how and all their aspirations. Did you find that worked, or did it suddenly become a difficulty?
Well, really I suppose the community involvement was really in the early stages, and then we sort of scooped up the material and created our own. The filmmakers that we were working with are very well versed in theatre language as well. So it was a huge learning curve for us, and as theatrical practitioners, but the community involvement was very much in the early stages, and then they were either privy to, some of them were privy to what we were doing because we were filming on in their locations, but they weren't hugely involved in that process. It was much more an educational process for me, actually. having never, I mean, I've integrated some film work in feral stuff before, as Rachel well knows, but my knowledge of filmmaking is pretty much zero. I absolutely would bring people in to do it before, and I didn't expect to enjoy it at all. This whole digital theatre thing for me, I was quite purist and downright snobby about it. And I loved it, I just loved it. I thought, oh my God, this is such a way forward for me. I really want to do more, and I am doing more. So I'm very keen on form blending. So it's very interesting to see like playing level on stage, you know, when you're 30 foot away from somebody, you have to lift it, you have to heighten it. And you know, the tiniest raise of an eyebrow on screen registers, you know, so having to rein in the playing level and to see what works on camera, what doesn't work on camera, to have some images. I'm not terribly visual, I'm much more of a kinesthetic and a sort of auditory director until something's in front of me, and then I can go, actually, no, I can see exactly what the composition should be here. So having to work in such a completely visual way because of that live aspect, the kinesthetic live aspect being removed, it was just fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and integrating music in a very, very thorough way, and not having to. I avoided the whole live sound nightmare by pre-recording it. I just pre-recorded the whole thing, and I thought, well, this could just be a stylistic choice as far as anybody else knows. But the anachronisms of historical, of trying to keep all the contemporary elements out of, oh gosh, it's just you end up kind of filming on a postage stamp.
In the end, with my, you do. I mean, we had a helicopter. We wanted one evening shot, and there was a police helicopter just kept circling us, and it was like, go away, because you've got that one time when you can film, and then if you listen, you can hear the ambient sounds of the Rotherwas estate. And I just thought, we're embracing this as a Victorian mill because I can't move it. But it was testing.
I thought it was very interesting in one of the is it the creature, the piece, the creature, their use of sound is very interesting, where they moved in and out of live and pre-recorded sound. And
I would have loved to have asked them about that. I agree.
It's very
effective. That really interesting. I would love to talk to bring Sarah Jane in, actually, because we haven't heard from you, Sarah Jane, and then perhaps Paula could come into this. I'm really interested in the difference between writing for theatre and or novels, and then writing for film. I'm really interested in that process, and whether it is a very natural step, or is it a struggle? Is it something you've really kind of got to grips with and kind of relished, or was it something that you really had to kind of go back to the chalkboard? Sarah Jane.
Well, my background is poetry, actually. So I initially wrote the script as a poem. That's how I saw it. And then it was a question of cutting a lot of it to make it work for film. But also as well, I mean, obviously we were thinking then about what's going to be spoken aloud and what's going to be a voiceover, how certain images can be filmed and what have you. So, I mean, certainly, as Estelle said, there was a lot of playing around with sort of the historical facts with this. But I personally find poetry a really freeing way to write, and I'm particularly interested in how poetry can be performed on stage, in a theatre setting, or on film. You know, and this just seemed to lend itself. It seemed to be a medium that did sort of fit absolutely with the story. So I mean, it was great fun writing it, because, you know, as I was doing it, I was thinking, I wonder how they're going to film this.
You mentioned the edit process, Sarah Jane. Was that a brutal process? Was that something you did yourself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have the whole piece, and Estelle and I then work on it. But I mean, there are some things I will defend, but I'm enough of a writer to know that, hang on a minute, yes, that's not going to work. Okay. That's fine, get rid of it. That means it doesn't work in this bit, but it'll work maybe somewhere else. I'm not going to ditch anything that's edited out. But I mean, I accept that there was probably some bits that were flowery and whatever that did need shaving off, you know, and thinking more in a kind of like visual way about the actual piece of writing. A real linker for me as well. I mean, I really like that process of writing, is the actual sort of editing thing, particularly with someone else, like with Estelle. You know, we work well together like that. So we both respect and like what each other does. So I'm happy with any guidance from her. And likewise, you know, she'll tell me if perhaps, hang on a second, this might not this might not translate well to film. You know,
that collaboration's really precious, isn't it? Paula, what was your process like writing, you know, coming off the page and onto the screen?
Well, I have written feature-length screenplays before, but I haven't had anything produced. But so I've been through the process, I suppose, and I've also written one book that I wrote as a novel, and I wrote the screenplay. So I've had that parallel. In fact, I wrote them sort of the same 6 months for the first draft of each to give me that difference. So yeah, I didn't find that difficult. I think, although this was, you know, film is supposed to be a collaborative process, for me, actually, this was a much more solitary process because I was leading the project and I didn't have the editor I'm used to working with and the copy editors and all those other people that work on books with me every year. And suddenly, apart from the youngsters who I was filming with, I was on my own. It was just me and YouTube, you know, when my software was playing up and I couldn't edit something, it's me and YouTube. And so I missed that collaboration. I sort of would have liked more of that, but it was a very time sensitive sort of project. But no, I think my books are quite visual. I write in scenes. When I plan my writing, I don't plan chapters, I plan scenes. So that for me was quite an easy step to move to writing
halfway there.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for each other? Rick, did you want to ask any?
Well, I was just going to say, Paula really sort of, I mean, filming kind of dialogue on an iPhone, I'm just full of admiration. It's really difficult to do, especially with actors that aren't used to, you know, the camera and using an iPhone and a little mic. It's, you know,
it was really there was one whole shoot where we ended up with no sound we could use. And I just went home and cried. And then I discovered that actually the finished product, you've got an awful lot of the dialogue we did one day put on the visuals that we did another day. And I didn't think I'd be able to do that in the editing. But we have a lot of cutting away from the person who's speaking when we play a bit of dialogue that I couldn't lip sync and then coming back. So, and in fact, there's one piece between the two of them, which was filmed in 2 different months. So we had visuals from 2 separate months and dialogue from 3 separate shoots, and it's all just me and this little old MacBook and me sort of pressing buttons thinking, why have to work?
Paula, you're literally
my family
out in a cold.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I had like a window of 2 months to do the whole thing, and 3 months. 3 months to do the whole thing from start to finish, and that was it, which was quite good because otherwise I'd still be doing it. I'd still be there trying to get rid of that bloody green exit sign on the door coming out that I tried to get rid of, and I got rid of it, and then it messed something up and I had to let it come back in, and nobody else sees it. I see it this big. But yeah, it was a challenge, but I wanted to show it could be done, and I do think the little iPhone actually did quite well. I had a filter system and an app called Filmic Pro. I don't know.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, Filmic Pro and a little filter thing that took out the glare. And because it was a ghostly thing, I just let it all look vaguely sort of green and peculiar and just went with that, really. But I'm very envious of decent equipment. The quality of your sound and everybody else's sound and things. I think that's it is lovely. It's lovely.
There's a reason that lots of first-time filmmakers choose not to use sync dialogue. It does make life a whole lot easier, really. But did you say that you edited it on YouTube? No. I learned how to edit it on YouTube. Right. I was going to say,
really... when I get to the bit where, how do I do this? Way to YouTube and then back, and then, oh right, okay. No, my MacBook, it's a very old Mac. It just on this, and my biggest problem was it kept saying you're full, you haven't got enough memory for this. Once I embarked on the whole thing, because I'd filmed it in 4K, and of course I couldn't. Then everything I had was jettisoning stuff off my. I've lost, I don't know where things are. They're in the cloud. They're in the bin. But yeah, I didn't enjoy that aspect of it much.
How did you find the shift between writer and director? That thing when you actually go, okay, now I've got to make this thing that I've written into something which happens. Did you find
it was fine, except I had to leave the house. It involved me actually. I've been writing books for 10 years, and nobody comes into my writing room, and I suddenly found that it was out. So that was tricky. But but no, that was quite satisfying, because that was bringing, I'm sure you feel that too, when you're out there doing it, you feel like you're in control of what you've written. You haven't handed it over to someone else, and you're bringing it into life. And I'd never directed anything before. I didn't have a clue. I mean, the outtakes are all me with my sleeve, where I think I'm not filming, going, go there, literally directing people with my finger. So, but I was surprised that it worked at all, really. So it was quite a joyful experience to actually be out there doing it.
Yeah.
Can I ask Sarah Jane and Estelle, because I guess you were working with Lyle and Kai, who are fairly experienced filmmakers, and they know. I mean, was there a really good kind of, was there quite a creative tension? Were there times where they were just going off in a direction and you thought, oh, where's that going? Or were they very, how did that work, that relationship? Because they're quite experienced filmmakers as such.
They are, absolutely, and they're fantastic and very patient with people who know less than they do, which is really, I think that was key. And I spent a lot of time with Lyle in the run-up to the shoot, so he really understood what I was aiming for. So it was a sense of, in a way, really, that like I was directing the sort of theatre part of it, and Lyle was directing the film part of it, and he was just brilliant at facilitating what was in my head or on my wish list, really. And he, what I really appreciate, and Kai, I mean, honestly, there are moments I know now that actually what he did in White Cottage was tantamount to cinematography, and I had no idea what it was, or whether there was a difference between that and being a DOP, or I know now, but it was just such a collaborative process. It was just fantastic. Like that moment, my favorite moment in the film is when she's turning towards the end. She's turning, she's looking at Snod Hill, she looks at Peter Church, she looks at Golden Valley, and it's literally Kai with his camera on a gimbal saying, let me just try this. I'm going to follow around anti-clockwise to her clockwise, or whatever, the other way around, and just let me try. And Lyle was saying, are you sure? Are you sure? And he said, yeah. And there's just, everything came together. And the sense of the teamwork there, and the collaborative approach was,
and the trust, I guess. There's a lot of trust there, yeah.
The trust, absolutely. And just the willingness to kind of support each other in trying things out. And it just, that sequence for me still, it catches me every time I look at it. It's just something just beautiful, the timing of it, and his sensitivity, Kai's sensitivity, and Lyle at the background sort of holding him in that space, and Maddie doing her voice and the music at that point. Just really, everything came together. And that, I have to say, sorry?
I'm so sorry. I just know that we're running out of time, and we've just had a question come in. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Estelle, but we've just had a question from Anne to Paula, just asking about whether you would have liked, it doesn't sound like you had much of an option, but whether you would have been interested in having a separate editor on the work that you've made, and that would have been
yes, please.
Yeah,
yes, I would, because it was just so much to learn in one go, and I didn't want to let down the actors. Had done such a good job. They're only young, they've both gone off to drama school, and I didn't want to let them down by messing it up in the editing suite. And at the end of the day, nobody's really interested in whether you cried over your keyboard because you couldn't get it to work. They just want the thing to look right. So yes, definitely, and a sound engineer, because that was just traumatic as well.
And then your crew gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah, you go away from the one.
But doing it on
in fact, I did have a safety person, because my partner, who's Farmer Wilson in the thing, he had to don a wetsuit type thing, because when we're in the river and Mia has to walk into the river, and it was because we waited a month, there had been floods, summer floods, and I was really worried that she was going to get swept away. So
especially in that frock, goodness me.
We had to have him out of shot with a hook and ready. And one time he went charging, and she said, I was acting. He said, I thought you were drowning. But yeah, that was a very important crew.
Extraordinary. Right, well, I mean, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and we're probably going to need to wind it down. I don't have any more questions on our Q&A, but I wonder whether you might have a question for one another.
Would you do it again?
That was my question too.
Yeah. I don't know, Sarah Jane, would you do it again? Did you enjoy that
Yeah,
transition?
I did. Yes, I did. I did actually. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something really new for me, and I just liked having writing in one form, which was a poem, and then adapting it to a different form. You know, I found it really experimental and exciting. So yeah, I would do it again.
So your missions
Would you?
are
Yes.
yeah.
With an editor, yes.
And a sound engineer and a
And
microphone
and somebody making the coffee other than me, and breaking out the jelly babies and the catering.
So the mission is that this time next year you will come back and we're talking
Yes.
about the next one that you
Yeah.
please.
I mean, it's there because it'll happen. So that idea of making something 1 year, feedback, meeting people who can do things,
Yeah.
and then go, okay,
Yeah,
let's do it
fun.
again. I think that's part of the idea of open screen, is that it can actually generate, so it goes forward.
Great. It's lovely. It's lovely to be a part of all this.
Fantastic. Well, we do want to see you all again next year for definite. I'm really interested to know whether it's interesting you said, Sarah Jane, about how you were interested in poetry because of the freedom of it, and then you have your poetry set to music, which is by its very definition has a structure. I'm really interested in that kind of tension, and that might be a conversation for another day with a glass of wine, when we actually kind of get together.
I would give you a quick answer, Rachel, which is structure is liberating.
Yes, come on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, cool.
I'll leave you with that thought.
I'm just going to write that down and steal it.
Yeah, I just have.
Well, to be fair, there is, rules can be helpful, can't they? Structure and rules can be helpful. I thought I found all the films this afternoon really, really fascinating. And it was really lovely to talk to you all three of you. I'm just fascinated to see the next lot. Are you going to be joining us for the next lot?
Well, we're coming back at, is it 5:30 for the BFI network?
Yeah, there's the get together at 5:30.
I should be there.
The next Q&A is 5:30, is it?
No, there's a filmmakers after the next Q&A.
Right.
There's then a filmmakers get together as well, which is at 5:30.
So the next Q&A, because I think we're coming to that as well, is that at 4:45?
That'll be at 5. I think that starts at 5 o'clock. I think.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great.
Okey-dokey. I think we're going to get kicked out in a second.
I think we are.
So I'm going to thank you very, very much.
Your husband with that hook.
I know, it literally is. Just before we do, I just want to thank you.
It's his birthday. I'm going to go and give him some cake.
Hey. Marvellous. I just want to thank everybody. I think anybody who makes films are frankly insane. And I do put myself in that group because I am lucky enough to do that and to make films, and I absolutely love it. But I do think that the effort that it takes, I think anybody who has brought anything to open screen just needs applauding, because I just find it an extraordinary thing to have done, especially when you're within so many limitations, whether you're on your own like Paula, or you're dealing with a lockdown where you've wanted to create a certain piece of work in a particular way, and then you get stymied by a lockdown, and so you go, no, do you know what, we're going to make a film, and you do. It's an extraordinary process, and I think it's really admirable, the fact that we've had more entrants this time than ever. I think the first year, the second year, the third year, we have just grown exponentially. It's an extraordinary thing, and I'm really fascinated. And
more entrants from women as well.
Pardon?
Yeah,
and more entrants from women, which has been
than ever before. Yeah, really, really brilliant. Really, really brilliant. Yes, absolutely. Matt, I think are we due to be pulled off?
I think the other one has started
now.
Oh, right. Oh, God, we're running.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Then I suggest we call it a day then.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Everybody.
Very nice to meet you all. Bye. Thank you for your work. Take care. Bye-bye.